Have you ever noticed how easy it is to talk about change and how hard it is to feel it? We live in a world where everyone's talking about their plans, their pain, their dreams, their goals, but very few are actually feeling what they're saying. We've mistaken expression for connection and communication for transformation. The truth is, growth doesn't happen when you speak about what you want. It happens when you feel what you need. Talking can explain you, but feeling is what evolves you. When you truly start feeling more and talking less, everything about the way you live, love, and connect begins to shift. Because while words can impress people, emotions move them. Words can build walls, feelings build bridges. And that's what today's message is about. Rediscovering the quiet power of feeling over talking. We've been taught that talking helps us understand things, that if we just keep explaining, we'll eventually find clarity. But sometimes the more we talk, the further we drift from what we truly feel. We use words as a shield, a way to protect ourselves from actually sitting with our emotions. It's easier to talk about our pain than to feel it. Easier to describe our dreams than to face the fear of chasing them. Easier to fill the silence with words than to allow it to reveal the truth. But the truth doesn't live in our sentences. It lives in the spaces between them. It lives in the pause, in the breath we avoid taking, in the moment we finally allow ourselves to feel what our words have been covering up. When we talk without feeling, our words lose depth. We start saying things we think we should say instead of what we actually mean. We explain our emotions logically because feeling them seems too messy, too uncomfortable. But understanding doesn't come from logic. It comes from connection. You can't think your way through healing. You have to feel your way through it. Talking might help you process, but it's feeling that helps you release. When you stop explaining and start feeling, your awareness deepens. You begin to hear the quiet voice underneath the noise, the one that tells you what you truly need, what hurts, what matters, and what's been waiting to be acknowledged. Most people speak to be heard, but not to connect. We've grown so used to performing through words that we forget to listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. Sometimes silence isn't empty. It's full of answers that words can't deliver. The reason we feel stuck so often is because we've replaced self-awareness with self-expression. We keep talking about our emotions, hoping they'll disappear, when in reality, they just want to be felt. Talking helps you understand your story, but feeling helps you rewrite it. And that's the difference between knowing your pain and healing it. When you slow down enough to feel instead of talk, you start seeing the truth more clearly. You realize that not every feeling needs to be justified. Not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every silence needs to be filled. Because the moment you stop talking just to make sense of life and start feeling what life is trying to teach you, you begin to experience a deeper kind of understanding, the kind that doesn't need words. That's when growth begins, quietly, honestly, and powerfully. We live in a world obsessed with words, motivation, advice, opinions, endless conversations about growth and success. But here's the truth most people don't want to face. Talking about change is not the same as changing. You can talk about healing all you want, but healing doesn't begin until you feel the wound. You can talk about confidence, but you'll never embody it until you felt the insecurity that hides behind your smile. You can talk about forgiveness, but it's only real when you've truly felt the pain, released it, and decided to move forward. Words can describe a journey, but only feelings can take you through it. That's why so many people stay stuck, not because they don't understand, but because they refuse to feel. We numb, distract, and overthink because feeling hurts. And yet, that pain we avoid is the doorway to real transformation. The moment you allow yourself to actually feel what you've been running from, everything begins to shift. It's like turning on a light in a room you've kept dark for years. Uncomfortable at first, but freeing once you can finally see. Because emotion is motion. It moves you. It doesn't let you stay where you are. The things you truly feel become the things you finally act on. Talking about what you want is easy. Anyone can do that. Feeling what you need to change takes courage. You can talk about self-love endlessly, but when you finally feel the emptiness of neglecting yourself, that's when you decide to set boundaries. You can talk about pursuing your dreams, but when you feel the pain of staying where you don't belong, that's when you finally take a step. You can talk about peace, but when you truly feel the exhaustion of chaos, that's when you start protecting your energy. Feeling is the trigger that pushes you into movement. It turns knowledge into wisdom, thoughts into decisions, and emotions into transformation. The reason many people never change is because they stay in their heads instead of their hearts. Growth doesn't happen through more talking. It happens through deeper feeling, the kind that breaks you open, forces you to face the truth, and pushes you towards something better. When you let yourself feel fully, you begin to act from authenticity instead of fear. You stop pretending, stop explaining, and start becoming. Because real change doesn't come when you talk about your pain. It comes when you feel it enough to do something about it. When you start to truly feel instead of just talk, something changes in the way you connect with people. You stop performing and start being present. You no longer feel the need to fill every silence or say the right thing. Because connection doesn't come from perfect words. It comes from honest emotion. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. And when you start showing up with real emotion instead of rehearsed responses, you start forming bonds that are deeper, quieter, and more meaningful. Talking can get you attention, but feeling gets you connection. When you talk without emotion, your words stay on the surface. But when you feel what you're saying, people sense it. They lean in, they believe you, because emotions have energy, and that energy travels further than your words ever could. Think about the last time someone spoke to you from the heart, not perfectly, but truthfully. You didn't care about how they phrased it. You felt their sincerity. That's the power of emotion. It bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the soul. You can't fake it, you can't force it, and you can't replace it with charm or cleverness. When you feel, people feel you. Feeling deeply also teaches you to listen differently. You stop hearing just to reply. You start listening to understand. You become more aware of what's behind people's words, their tone, their hesitation, their silence. You begin to notice that sometimes the loudest cry is the one that isn't spoken. This level of emotional sensitivity changes the way you love, the way you lead, the way you show up in every relationship. You stop needing to win arguments or prove your point. You start choosing compassion over control, understanding over ego. Because when you connect through feeling, you realize that everyone's just trying to be understood, just like you. And the beauty of this shift is that it simplifies everything. You stop forcing relationships that drain you because you start recognizing emotional disconnection early on. You stop over-explaining yourself because you trust that the right people will feel your truth without needing a script. You stop chasing validation because you finally understand that the deepest form of connection begins with the one you have with yourself. And when that happens, when you feel deeply, love openly, and connect honestly, your relationships stop being noise and start becoming nourishment. You move from talking about connection to actually living it. Growth doesn't happen in the noise, it happens in the quiet. It's in those moments when you stop talking, stop performing, and simply sit with yourself that life begins to change. Silence is not empty, it's full of lessons. But most people run from silence because it feels uncomfortable. It exposes everything you've been avoiding. When you stop talking, you start hearing. You hear your thoughts, your truth, your needs. You realize how much of your life has been lived reacting to the world instead of responding from within. That's where growth begins. Not in doing more, but in feeling more without running away. In silence, your emotions become clearer. You start noticing the difference between what you think you want and what your heart actually needs. The noise of other people's opinions fades, and you begin to trust your own intuition. You stop explaining your choices to everyone because you finally understand them yourself. The constant need to prove, justify, or impress starts to fall away. And in that stillness, you begin to see growth is not a performance, it's a process. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, consistent, and deeply personal. When you grow in silence, you start valuing peace over validation. You no longer need to convince people that you've changed. Your calm speaks for you. You don't post every moment of your journey, you live it. You stop needing others to notice your progress because you can feel it in the way you handle things that used to break you. You find strength in your softness, power in your patience, and wisdom in your stillness. You realize that the loudest proof of growth is peace, the kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. That's why the quiet ones often grow the most. They don't need to announce their transformation, they embody it. They've learned that silence doesn't mean absence, it means presence. It means being fully here, fully aware, and fully connected to life as it unfolds. So when you choose to stop talking and start feeling, don't be afraid of the silence that follows. That's not emptiness. That's evolution. That's your soul catching up to your truth. Growth doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers, and the ones who are still enough to listen are the ones who truly evolve. There comes a point when you realize that words can only take you so far. You can talk about peace all day, but unless you've felt the chaos inside you and learned to calm it, the words mean nothing. You can talk about love, but until you've felt the ache of losing it, the patience it requires, and the vulnerability it demands, you don't truly understand it. You can talk about purpose, but until you've felt the emptiness of living without it, you won't know the fire it takes to chase it. Feelings give meaning to everything we say. Without them, our words are just sound. With them, our words become truth. Feeling deeply is not about being emotional all the time. It's about being present. It's about allowing yourself to experience life fully without numbing or pretending. When you feel deeply, you experience sadness and joy with equal honesty. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad. You understand that pain has its place just as happiness does. You begin to see that emotions are not here to destroy you, they're here to shape you. Each feeling teaches you something. Sadness shows you what matters, anger shows you what needs boundaries, fear shows you where courage is needed, and love shows you what's worth fighting for. And when you feel deeply, you grow silently. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing to explain your emotions to people who don't understand. You learn to process quietly, to sit with your heart until it makes sense. You realize that your healing is not a public performance. It's a private evolution. You start spending more time alone, not because you're lonely, but because solitude feels like home. You discover that silence is not emptiness, it's alignment. It's where you meet yourself, hear your intuition, and find peace. The power of feeling over talking is that it transforms you from the inside out. You stop trying to sound wise and start becoming wise. You stop needing to be seen because you finally see yourself. The more you feel, the less you need to prove. And that's real strength. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't seek attention, and doesn't need validation. It's the strength that whispers, I've been through it, I've felt it, I've grown. So talk less, feel more, and let your growth make the noise your words never could. When you truly understand the power of feeling over talking, something profound shifts inside you. You begin to realize that life's deepest transformations don't happen when you explain your pain. They happen when you experience it. Silence becomes sacred. Emotions become teachers. You no longer rush to share every thought because you've learned that not everything needs to be said. Some things need to be felt until they change you. The people who grow the most are not the loudest in the room. They are the ones who take the time to understand what their heart is saying when no one else is listening. You start to approach your relationships differently too. Instead of defending yourself with endless words, you allow your actions and energy to speak. You listen more, not just to others, but to your own intuition. You begin to value emotional honesty over verbal cleverness. You notice that sometimes the most healing thing you can do for someone isn't to talk, but to be present, to hold space for them, to let silence carry the compassion that words can't. Because sometimes the heart doesn't need answers. It just needs to be understood without explanation. In your quiet moments, you start noticing how much peace there is in simply feeling. You stop fighting your emotions. You stop trying to appear fine when you're not. You let yourself be human, raw, imperfect, and real. And it's in that vulnerability that you find your greatest strength. You realize that silence doesn't make you weak, it makes you powerful. Because silence is the place where your emotions settle, your thoughts align, and your next chapter begins. So if you want to evolve, if you want to grow in ways that words can't capture, then stop talking for a while. Sit with your heart. Feel everything it's been trying to say. Don't rush to fix, explain, or justify. Just feel. Because when you do, something magical happens. Clarity rises, wisdom flows, and your growth becomes effortless. The power of feeling over talking isn't in what you say. It's in what you allow yourself to become. When we strip away the noise, the opinions, and the constant need to explain ourselves, what's left is something real, our feelings. This entire message is about rediscovering that quiet power within you. Talking can bring awareness, but feeling brings transformation. It's in your silence that you find truth. The moments when you stop performing for the world and start listening to your own emotions, That's when real growth begins. Because life doesn't change when you speak about what hurts. It changes when you feel it deeply enough to heal it. In a world that celebrates being loud and expressive, choosing to feel instead of talk can seem uncomfortable, even rebellious. But that discomfort is the birthplace of evolution. When you stop seeking validation through words and start connecting through emotion, your relationships become deeper, your purpose becomes clearer, and your peace becomes stronger. Silence becomes your superpower, and feelings become your guide. Every emotion you've ever suppressed is not your weakness. It's your roadmap back to yourself. True strength is not found in how well you talk about your life, but in how deeply you understand it. You evolve not when others finally hear you, but when you finally hear yourself. Growth doesn't need an audience, it needs awareness. The more you feel, the more you understand the hidden layers of your own humanity. You stop running from pain and begin learning from it. You stop chasing joy and start embodying it. You stop talking about change and start living it quietly, one emotion at a time. So let this message be your reminder: your silence isn't empty, it's sacred. Don't rush to fill it with words. Let your heart speak in ways your voice never could. The next time you're tempted to talk about how you feel, pause and feel it instead. Because when you choose to feel over talk, you don't just express, you evolve. You become more grounded, more peaceful, and more authentic. You become someone who doesn't need to explain their growth because it's visible in their energy, their presence, and their quiet strength. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. I truly appreciate every single one of you who chooses to grow, reflect, and feel deeply with me. Remember, your emotions are not your enemy. They're your greatest teachers. Don't rush to silence them. Don't hide from them. Embrace them, learn from them, and let them shape the person you're becoming. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these messages reach more people who need them. Until next time, stay grounded, stay gentle, and keep feeling more than you speak. This is your journey of silent growth, and I'm honored to walk it with you. Take care, stay mindful, and goodbye for now.